Sean McDermott has been the head coach of the Buffalo Bills for 3 seasons now. It's time to take a look at how he's done his first 3 years and what Buffalo Bills fans should expect from him moving forward. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to this coach evaluation edition of Believers Talk, where we take a look at a current Buffalo Bills head coach and ask ourselves, how has he done so far as a Buffalo Bills coach, and what can we expect from him in the future? Again, guys, thank you for joining me. My name is Joe. If you're new to this channel, guys, please be sure to hit that subscribe button as it continues to help the channel, and I really do appreciate it. After you hit that subscribe button, you want to hit that notification bell. YouTube will notify you when we put out new content. While you're here, hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button. Let me know you like this content, and then leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Coach Sean McDermott, what he's done so far for the Buffalo Bills, and what you're looking forward to in 2020 and beyond from Coach McDermott as the Buffalo Bills head coach. Now, before we get into this video, I feel like that with the recent news surrounding the NFL, it wouldn't be right to start a coaching video without remembering one of the NFL's greatest coaches of all time. If you don't already know, which I'm sure all of you do, the NFL lost one of the greatest head coaches of all time when Don Shula, former head coach of the Miami Dolphins and the Indianapolis Colts and some other teams, passed away at the age of 90 years old on Monday. Don Shula has a lot of things to his credit. First and foremost, he is the winningest head coach in the NFL history. He was inducted into Hall of Fame in 1997, I believe. He spent a decade dominating our Buffalo Bills. There was a whole decade between 1970 and 1980 where he did not lose a single time to the Buffalo Bills. That's when he was head coach of the Miami Dolphins. That means they played each other twice, and he absolutely dominated the Buffalo Bills every single time. Obviously, Don Shula, part of that 1972 perfect season for the Miami Dolphins, where only team to ever go undefeated and win the Super Bowl. And that year, actually, the Buffalo Bills gave the Dolphins their closest game, only losing to them in one of their matchups by 1 point. But a loss is a loss, and an undefeated season is an undefeated season. So, tip of a cap to Don Shula, tip of a cap to the 1972 Miami Dolphins team. I know that during the season, a lot of Bills fans, all Bills fans, are saying squish the fish. I still consider the Dolphins to be the Buffalo Bills' biggest rival, going back to the Dan Marino, Jim Kelly days, and even a little bit before that. I thought there were some great games in there. But when you see something like this, it's just sad news. Obviously, the passing of one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coaches of all time. If you want to argue with me that Don Shula is the greatest coach of all time, I couldn't argue back. There's nothing I could say. For me personally, I put Vince Lombardi above Don Shula. Now, there might be some hate there due to the fact that he was the Miami Dolphins' former head coach, but you can't argue that he is easily a top 5 NFL head coach of all time, and that his knowledge of the game will surely be missed. He definitely was continuing to stay in the game even after retirement. So again, want to take a moment just to give up condolences to the Shula family and to Dolphins Nation. Again, during the season, we'll still say squish the fish, and we'll tease each other back and forth. But yeah, Don Shula was a great head coach. Obviously, I didn't get to watch a lot of his coaching days, but I saw some. And he will definitely be someone who's missed, not just in NFL circles, but in sports circles in general. So just wanted to give a quick shout out to Don Shula, passed away Monday at the age of 90 years old. So I'm sure that Don Shula would want the show to go on, right? A lot of coaches who are coaching in the NFL today were influenced mightily by what Don Shula did in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. So we'll talk about one of those coaches right now, Buffalo Bills head coach, Coach Sean McDermott. Coach Sean McDermott has been the Buffalo Bills head coach for 3 seasons now. In fact, he was hired by the Buffalo Bills on January 11th of 2017. So this will be his his fourth, hopefully, full season with the Buffalo Bills. Some things about Coach McDermott. He was hired on January 11th, 2017. He is the 20th head coach in Buffalo Bills history. Now, he is the 22nd hired head coach in Buffalo Bills history if you go in order. So he's the 22nd new head coach in Buffalo Bills history, but two of those head coaches served 2 terms as the Buffalo Bills head coach. You look back at Lou Saban, spent multiple years as Buffalo Bills head coach in 2 separate terms, and then also Harvey Johnson spent time as the Buffalo Bills head coach 2 separate times. So he is the 20th Buffalo Bills head coach. However, he is the 22nd hired coach for the Buffalo Bills. So if that makes sense, hopefully it made sense of that, because it doesn't make sense to me sometimes. But also you have to think about recent history. When Coach McDermott was hired, remember the Buffalo Bills were still going through the 18-year playoff drought. Well, he was their 9th head coach in those 18 seasons. So you're talking about averaging 1 head coach every 2 years. Not a good recipe for winning if you are a Bills fan. And we saw that a lot. We saw a lot of bad coaches in that time. In fact, when he finished his 3rd season with the Buffalo Bills just this past year at the end of the 2019 campaign, he became the first Buffalo Bills head coach to finish 3 seasons since Chan Gailey did it in 2010 through 2012. And if he completes this season, which all signs lead to him at least having another season with the Buffalo Bills, unless there's some sort of catastrophe in Buffalo. But if he completes his 4th season as Buffalo Bills head coach, he'll be the first head coach in Bills history to do it since Marv Levy. Marv Levy was the Buffalo Bills head coach from 1986 to 1997, obviously leading the Buffalo Bills to 4 straight Super Bowls. But there hasn't been a coach in Bills history since then to complete 4 seasons as the Buffalo Bills head coach. Hopefully Coach McDermott can break that trend this season. Hopefully he can win us our first playoff game since Marv Levy was the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. So one of the reasons why we're doing this video now, the reason why we're going to rank Coach McDermott now and see how he's been doing the past 3 seasons is because if you don't know, rotoworld.com recently put out a list of the top of ranking all 32 head coaches in the NFL heading into the 2020 NFL season. And on that list, Coach McDermott ranks 11th. And I know a lot of Bills fans hear that and they might immediately get upset and say, how is Coach McDermott not in the top 10? Because you have to remember, the names on this list didn't all go into the same situation. Coach McDermott's situation was a lot different and a lot harder than some of the other coaches on this list. Now, Coach McDermott comes and he's the Buffalo Bills head coach in 2017. Of course, Bills fans know what happened in 2017. Coach McDermott leads this team to the playoffs in his first season. In fact, he is only the 3rd head coach in Buffalo Bills history to win his first game as the Buffalo Bills head coach. Marv Levy did it, Rex Ryan did it, and now Coach McDermott did it as well. So only 3 coaches in Bills history won their first game as coach of the Buffalo Bills, and he's one of them. Leads the Buffalo Bills to the playoffs with a 9-7 record in his first season. And then of course we all remember last season, or I'm sorry, 2018, he goes 6-10 and unfortunately misses the playoff then. But then last season you talk about a 10-6 record, getting in that number 5 seed, of course losing another playoff game to the Houston Texans. 0-2 in the playoffs in 2 playoff appearances out of 3 seasons. So I'm going to go over what he's done well. I'm going to go over some of the things that he needs to work on and some of the bounces that really just haven't gone his way. Maybe don't blame him for these things, but he definitely is the head coach, so the buck really stops with him with a lot of the things that have gone wrong with the Buffalo Bills over the past 3 seasons. Now listen, as Bills fans, we know what it's like to go through a long playoff drought, right? We had the longest playoff drought for 18 years. It was the longest active playoff drought in North American sports. I mean, it was just a tedious 18 years that felt like it was going to go on for an eternity, right? Went through Drew Bledsoe. We went through JP Lossman, EJ Manuel, a bunch of names that no one wants to hear if you're a Buffalo Bills fan ever again. So you know what the Buffalo Bills went through. So to have Coach McDermott come in his first season, put an end to that, obviously that creates a warm feeling for a coach like Coach McDermott, whoever the coach was when he came in. We all knew, if you were a Bills fan and you understood the situation in Buffalo, you knew that the Buffalo Bills were going to have a tough season in 2018. You look at it, we had to move a lot of pieces. We moved Marcel Darius to Jacksonville. You moved Tyrod Taylor to Cleveland. There was a lot of dead cap money that the Buffalo Bills had to deal with. In fact, they had the most dead cap money of any team in 2018, and the second most was almost double or half of what the Buffalo Bills were spending in dead cap money going into 2018. So you knew expectations couldn't be too high for the Buffalo Bills, and they didn't do as well as some Bills fans might have hoped, finishing 6-10. However, they did go 3-4 over their last 7 games, gave you a reason for optimism if you were a Buffalo Bills fan. And then, of course, in 2019, they did not disappoint, finishing the season 10-6, again clinching that 5th seed in the AFC playoff picture. So now we look at 2020, we're hoping to see more improvement, right? We talk about our draft, we talk about Stephon Diggs, we talk about some of the other players added. Can Coach McDermott really turn this whole team around? He's done a good job with the defense. We all know that, right? For the past 2 seasons, we've had a top 3 defense in yards allowed per game. So we hope to see that continue to happen coming up in the 2020 NFL season. But what about that offense? Again, we talk about the addition of Stephon Diggs, talk about the draft, drafting Zach Moss, drafting 2 wide receivers, having continuity on that offensive line. Remember last season, 4 of our 5 offensive linemen, starting offensive linemen, were new to the Buffalo Bills team as of week 1 of the 2018 NFL season. Or 2019 NFL season, I should say. We don't have that this year. This year, all 5 guys that are going to start for the Buffalo Bills heading into week 1, at least as it looks right now, were starters in 2019. So you have that continuity now with the team. Hopefully that goes into the 2020 NFL season and Josh Allen can feel comfortable back there. This will be Josh Allen's 3rd year, and you all know what they say about quarterbacks in their 3rd year. This is the year where Josh Allen really needs to get it. This is the year where Josh Allen really needs to take that step forward, and Coach McDermott can only help that, right? He needs to help that progress. I know that Coach McDermott is a defensive head coach, defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers, and worked on the defensive side of the ball with the Philadelphia Eagles before that with Hall of Famer, legendary defensive coordinator Jimmy Johnson. So, he has a great track record, and now the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. Playoffs first 2 out of 3 years. Obviously, Bills fans are going to be ecstatic about that. However, if you look at some of the negatives, has not won a playoff game yet, right? 0-2 in the playoffs. Look at our offense the first 3 years he's been there. In 2017, we ranked 22nd in scoring offense. 2018, we ranked 30th, and then last year we ranked 23rd. We need to score more points. That's just the bottom line. We need to be able to get in the end zone. Hopefully, Stephon Diggs can help with that, but we need to score more points. Offensive yards per game, 29th in 2017, 30th in 2018, and 24th in 2019. So there's definitely some improvement in 2019, but we still want to see it continue to improve, move up 6 more spots, get to 18th, have a top 5 defense still, and then you have a potential to win that AFC East division, which a lot of Bills fans are hopeful for. That's my expectation going into the 2020 NFL season as well, but we're going to see what happens. So again, Rotoworld.com did a list of ranking the 32 head coaches heading into the 2020 NFL season. Coach McDermott was their 11th ranked head coach going into the 2020 NFL season. Let me tell you, some of these names are ahead of him, and I'm telling you, it's hard to find a guy that I would jump Coach McDermott in front of, just because 9 out of 10 guys on this list have been to the Super Bowl. So it's really hard to say that Coach McDermott, who's yet to win a playoff game, jumps above a head coach who's been to one or multiple Super Bowls. There may be one guy on that list that I think he could jump over. But first and foremost, obviously, if you're talking about coach rankings going into anything over the past 20 years, you have to talk about number one, Bill Belichick, right? New England Patriots head coach. Now they lose Tom Brady, so this might be the best coaching job Bill Belichick has to do if he plans on getting back to the playoffs, if he plans on winning that AFC East again. But we're going to see just how good of a head coach he is this season. Number two, you had Andy Reid, coming off that Super Bowl win with the Kansas City Chiefs, led the Eagles to 4 straight NFC Championship games and has led the Kansas City Chiefs now to 2 straight AFC Championship games, winning the Super Bowl this past season. Hard to argue him as second, but I do like Sean Payton sitting there at 3. Maybe you have Sean Payton at 2, Andy Reid at 3, but either way, I think you have 3 really solid head coaches in the top 3. Hard to say that anyone is better than those 3 heading into the 2020 NFL season. Number 4 is Jim Harbaugh, coach of the Baltimore Ravens, has had plenty of success, 2 times going to the Super Bowl, and now, of course, bringing in Lamar Jackson, MVP of the 2019 NFL season. Looks like Baltimore is going to have success for years to come. One of those teams that the Bills are going to have to contend with if the Buffalo Bills want playoff success. 5th, you have Doug Peterson of the Philadelphia Eagles. Not sure I would have ranked Doug Peterson this high. However, this is where he's ranked. Just won the Super Bowl 3 years ago now, beating the New England Patriots in that classic of a Super Bowl. I think that we've learned just how important Frank Reich has been or was as the offensive coordinator to the Philadelphia Eagles. And Frank Reich, not a guy listed in the top 10 of head coaches. So let me know what you think about that. Do you think Coach McDermott belongs in the top 10? Do you think that Frank Reich deserves a spot in the top 10 head coach now of the Indianapolis Colts? Then you move on to 6. You have Mike Tomlin. Really surprised Mike Tomlin is above Doug Peterson. Mike Tomlin has a long track record of success. In fact, I don't think he has a single season under his belt with that hasn't been at least a 500 record or better. A few Super Bowl appearances in that time, a Super Bowl victory in that time. 7 is Sean McVay of the Los Angeles Rams. Again, I put Sean McVay in the Doug Peterson boat. Yeah, they both made it to the Super Bowl, but then in years following, they haven't looked as strong as they did that one season. Now, of course, with Coach McVay, it's only been one season. We'll see how he rebounds this season, but the Rams do not look like a team that are going to be a threat heading into the 2020 NFL season. Then you have Kyle Shanahan, coach of the San Francisco 49ers, the runners-up in this past year's Super Bowl. Pete Carroll, head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, and Mike Zimmer. If I'm going to say Coach McDermott's better than one guy in the top 10, has to be Mike Zimmer, currently the coach of the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota just doesn't seem to be able to get the job done when it matters most. You do have that Minneapolis Miracle a few years back, but you talk about hiring a quarterback, fully guaranteed contract, and now they're pretty much suffering the consequences. We now get Stephon Diggs, of course, from Minnesota, so we'll say thank you and see what he can do. 11th, like I said, is Coach Sean McDermott. I'll give you some of the names after McDermott. It goes Vrabel, Reich, Arians, Matt LaFleur, Matt Nagy, and Bill O'Brien. So those are some names after Coach McDermott. So let me know what you think. Do you think Coach McDermott sits there at 11 and you say, yeah, that's about right? I would have him maybe 9th, 10th. I have him passing Mike Zimmer, and then maybe passing a guy like a Doug Peterson. Again, I would have Doug Peterson actually ranked towards the back end of the top 10, not at 5 where they ranked him here. So those are 2 guys I can see Coach McDermott jumping above. Maybe Sean McVay if he has another poor showing this season with the LA Rams. But again, you talk about Coach McDermott. What has he done for the Buffalo Bills? It's obvious. 2 out of 3 seasons we've gone to the playoffs, right? This team now has a different culture, a different feel about them, right? Teams want to come to Buffalo again and play for the Buffalo Bills. And all you hear about this team is how good the culture is. They look like they're having fun, but they're doing their business. They're taking care of business. In 2019, Coach McDermott was a Coach of the Year nominee, leading the Buffalo Bills to a 10-6 record. So you see this team improving, and that has a lot to do with Coach McDermott and the rest of this coaching staff. And guys, we will get into the rest of the coaching staff this offseason. I'll do a video on the offensive coaches, do a video on the defensive coaches as well, as we grade them and maybe rank them as well Roto World does the head coaches. Maybe we'll rank the assistant head coach, Leslie Frazier. Maybe we'll rank our offensive coordinator, Brian Dable, as well, and see where they rank compared to other offensive and defensive coordinators in the NFL. But according to rotoworld.com, Coach Sean McDermott listed as the 11th best coach heading into the 2020 NFL season. Guys, some of the negatives about Coach McDermott, we always talk about his time management issues, right? Not great at challenges. I think he's less than 25% on challenges when he challenges plays in the NFL. You talk about his time management, maybe not using timeouts when they could be used to save time at half or at the end of the fourth quarter. You talk about maybe not the best in-game coaching abilities. Again, we had a 16-0 lead on the Houston Texans heading into the third quarter of that game, that playoff game, and we just got beat in every aspect: offense, defense, special teams, coaching, the rest of the way in that second half that led to the Houston Texans victory. So there are some things, obviously he hasn't won a playoff game yet, so there are some things that we want Coach McDermott to work on, and that's why I think 11th might be about right, maybe sneaks into that top 10 spot there. But that's about as far as I can move up. Again, 9 out of the 10 guys that are above Coach McDermott have made it to the Super Bowl. And two things that I think about a lot when I think about ranking a head coach is how have you done against your division? And if you look at how Coach McDermott's done against his division, he does not have the greatest record. He's 0-6 against the New England Patriots, which of course they're the New England Patriots, so we're always going to have a hard time against them. We know how Tom Brady does against the Buffalo Bills, so it's a little obvious that he's 0-6 against the New England Patriots. He's 5-1 against the New Jersey Jets, so he kind of makes up for it there. I'm sorry, 5-1 against the Miami Dolphins, not the Jets. 5-1 against the Miami Dolphins, a Charles Clay drop away from being 6-0 against the Dolphins in his 3 years as the Buffalo Bills head coach, and then 3-3 against the New Jersey Jets in his career as well. So 5-1 against the Dolphins, obviously the best. 3-3 against the Jersey Jets, and then 0-6 against the New England Patriots. Division records matter. How you do against your division, that's probably what matters the most when it comes to winning and losing your division. So we need to get a little better there. He's 8-10 in 18 games against those 3 teams. And then you look at some of the stats again from 2017, 2018, 2019. We need to score more points. Again, 22nd, 30th, and 23rd in scoring offense. The defense obviously improved, and we're very happy about that. Want to keep them at a top 5 level, but you need to be able to score points in this league. You need to be able to beat your division. Those are 2 things you need to be able to do. 2 things Coach McDermott needs to work on in his time as the Buffalo Bills head coach. Another telling stat is he is 14-10 at home and 11-13 on the road. Remember that first season, he went 6-2 at home. Everyone was excited to see the Buffalo Bills defending their turf. Last 2 seasons, they've gone 4-4 at home. They really need to get back into that our home mentality of defending their turf. Hopefully that happens in the 2020 NFL season, and I look forward to covering the whole 2020 NFL season and continuing to cover our coaching staff right here on Believers Talk. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, guys, hit that subscribe button for continual Buffalo Bills sports news and Buffalo sports news in general. Also, hit that like button, like this video, and leave a comment. Where do you think Coach McDermott sits heading into the 2020 NFL season? I definitely think he's safe in year 4. Depending how we do in year 4, though, guys, he might be in trouble if we don't do what Bills fans think we can do and make it to the playoffs, win a playoff game, win the division. We need to do those things this season in order for me to feel safe about Coach McDermott's future with the Buffalo Bills. Remember, whether they like it or not, Coach McDermott, GM Brandon Beane, their fate is with Josh Allen, the quarterback that they drafted in 2018. So we'll see what happens. I look forward to covering it all right here on Believers Talk. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.